cruel husband abandons black woman, didn't know a former Navy SEAL was watching. The sun had just started to set over the quiet streets of Savannah, Georgia, painting the sky in swirls of amber and rose. In the upscale neighborhood of Magnolia Oaks, nestled behind the iron gates of a pristine white colonial house, something much darker was unraveling. Cassandra Brooks stood frozen in the marble-floored foyer, her suitcase still gripped tightly in one hand, her other hand trembling by her side. She was dressed in a simple navy blue dress, her natural curls pulled back in a low bun. The look on her face wasn't anger. It wasn't sadness. It was disbelief. Standing across from her, just a few feet away, was her husband of 5 years, Ryan Caldwell. Tall, white, early 40s, with slicked back hair and a silk shirt unbuttoned just enough to show his gym-sculpted chest, Ryan looked more like a model from a luxury car commercial than someone who'd just told his wife to pack up and leave. "I said I'm done, Cass. I've tried. You don't fit into my life anymore," Ryan said coldly, adjusting the cuff of his shirt. "You don't know how to play the game. My clients, my world, this image I built, it's not for someone like you." "Someone like me?" Cassandra's voice was soft, but laced with steel. She took a step forward. "Say it. You want me to spell it out? Fine," Ryan snapped. "You're too loud. Too strong, too black. And that's not the brand I want to project. I've got senators and CEOs at my parties, and every time you walk in with that Black Queen energy, it throws off the whole vibe." The words sliced through her like glass. Cassandra had fought side by side with Ryan to build his real estate empire from the ground up. She'd been there when he couldn't get a single investor to take him seriously. She'd stayed through the late nights, the anxiety, the lawsuits, but none of that seemed to matter now. "You used me to climb. Now you're trying to erase me from the picture," she said quietly, blinking back the sting in her eyes. Ryan scoffed and turned his back. "You'll get a settlement. My lawyer's drafting it. Just sign it, take the money, and go back to wherever it is you came from." Cassandra stood her ground. "I came from the same place I'm about to return to. My power. And trust me, Ryan, it's still there, even if you forgot." As she stepped outside, dragging her suitcase over the front steps, the heavy wooden door slammed shut behind her. The sound echoed through the quiet neighborhood like a gavel hitting wood. Across the street, a man sitting in a weathered Ford F-150 leaned slightly forward in his seat. He'd been parked there for the past hour, engine off, sunglasses hiding his eyes. But he hadn't missed a second of what just happened. Noah Carter didn't believe in coincidence. Former Navy SEAL, mid-40s, broad-shouldered, deep brown skin, and eyes that had seen too many wars, he now ran a nonprofit that quietly helped veterans and vulnerable women transition out of crisis situations. He hadn't planned on stopping in Savannah that evening. His organization was looking into a zoning issue involving Ryan Caldwell's shady property deals. But what he saw tonight changed everything. He watched as Cassandra sat on the front steps for a moment, trying to breathe. Her strength was evident, but the crack in her expression, it hit him. It wasn't just another story. This was personal. Later that evening, Cassandra checked into a modest extended-stay hotel on the edge of town. Her credit cards had been cut off, and her joint accounts with Ryan were mysteriously empty. All she had was a backup debit card in her maiden name and the few clothes she'd packed. She stared at the cheap ceiling tiles as she lay on the stiff mattress. Her phone buzzed. A message from her best friend, Zuri. "Zuri. Girl, I just heard. You okay?" Cassandra. "No, but I will be. Zuri, don't do this alone. Let me come down there." Cassandra. "I need to do this my way," and she meant it. She wasn't the type to crumble. Cassandra had once led diversity initiatives for Fortune 500 companies. She had given keynote speeches on resilience. She had mentored girls from underserved communities, reminding them that their voice had power. Now she had to remind herself of the same thing. But while Cassandra regrouped, Ryan celebrated. At a rooftop cocktail party 2 nights later, Ryan was already seen flirting with a young blonde real estate influencer. His charm was in full display as he bragged about his newfound freedom. What he didn't know was that Noah Carter had managed to slip into the same event, thanks to a well-connected friend at City Hall. Wearing a tailored gray suit and a calm demeanor, Noah observed silently from the far end of the rooftop bar. His trained eyes noticed how Ryan had already spun the narrative, telling people Cassandra had become unstable and that he had tried to help but couldn't anymore. It was the kind of gaslighting Noah had seen too many times. Rich man abandons woman, smears her name. Moves on clean, no consequences, but this time, not so fast. After the party, Ryan's date, Brittany, 26, giggling and unaware, pulled out her phone to record a TikTok with him. They walked right past Noah, who caught a brief audio snippet. "Yeah, I told her I'd give her $100,000 to disappear, but you know Cass. She wants to act like Michelle Obama or something." That was it. Noah slipped out of the shadows and made a call. "Yeah, it's Carter. I found our guy. You won't believe what this bastard's trying to pull. And there's a woman caught in the crossfire. We're going to fix this." Quietly, but thoroughly. He hung up, eyes scanning the night. Cassandra had no idea yet, but someone powerful had just stepped into her corner. And this time, justice would not be optional. It would be personal. The morning after her world fell apart, Cassandra sat in a quiet cafe near the riverfront, staring into a cup of untouched coffee. The hum of tourists and locals around her felt like static noise. She hadn't slept much. Her thoughts looped endlessly. Ryan's words, the way the door slammed in her face, the silence of betrayal. Across the street, Noah Carter stood leaning casually against a lamppost, sunglasses on, coffee in hand. He watched Cassandra through the window, not like a stalker, but like a man trying to figure out how to approach a lioness after she'd been wounded. Carefully, respectfully, he finally stepped in. The little bell above the door jingled. Cassandra didn't look up until he stood beside her. "You mind if I sit?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. She glanced up, wary at first, then nodded. "You were at the party," she said. "I saw you on the rooftop. You're not exactly subtle." He gave a half smile. "Didn't mean to be. I figured you'd notice." "So who are you? Another journalist?" "A lawyer? You here to dig through my life too?" "No," he said. "I'm here to help you take it back." She raised an eyebrow. "That sounds like something from a cheap action movie." "Maybe," he said, "but it doesn't make it less true." Cassandra leaned back in her seat, arms folded. "You don't know me." "I know your ex-husband's a liar with a dangerous amount of influence," Noah said. "I know what he's doing to you isn't just personal. It's calculated. I've seen this pattern before. Men like him don't just discard women. They try to erase them." Cassandra's jaw tightened. He continued, "My name is Noah Carter. I run a non-profit that protects women and vets in legal and financial crisis. I've been tracking Ryan's business practices for months. The zoning fraud, the fake charitable donations, the tax dodges. But then I saw what he did to you, and that made it personal." She blinked, processing. "You're a vet?" "Navy SEAL." "Retired," he said. "So what? You're just out here saving random women from their rich husbands now?" "No, I pick my battles. And I don't lose." Cassandra didn't speak for a moment. She looked at the man sitting across from her. The steady gaze, the calm intensity, the sense that he didn't just want to help her. He wanted justice. "Even if I believe you," she said slowly, "what can you do? He's got lawyers, friends in high places, and a public image polished like glass. I've got a suitcase, 2 outfits, and a canceled credit card." "Then we start with what you do have," Noah said. "Your name, your truth, and something even he doesn't realize: leverage." Cassandra tilted her head. "Leverage?" Noah reached into his coat pocket and laid a phone on the table. "I recorded him at the party. He admitted bribing you to go away. We have it on tape." She stared at the phone. "You're kidding." "I don't kid." A wave of shock hit her. For the first time in days, something shifted. A flicker of control returned. "But we won't release this. Not yet," Noah added. "We let him dig himself deeper, and when the time's right, we bury him with his own words." Cassandra nodded slowly. Her eyes, once clouded, began to sharpen. "Okay, I'm in, but on one condition." "Name it." "This isn't about revenge. It's about setting a precedent. If he can do this to me, how many others has he stepped on to get to where he is?" Noah's smile returned, but this time it carried weight. "Then let's do more than stop him. Let's expose everything." They shook hands across the table. Later that evening, while Ryan was wining and dining potential investors at his lakeside estate, Cassandra and Noah were digging through old files, using contacts, old interviews, even scouring social media posts from former employees. Cassandra's memory was sharp. She recalled dates, names, and conversations Ryan thought she'd forgotten. They found a woman named Melissa Green, a former assistant who had vanished after a confidential settlement. Another, Peter Vo, a Vietnamese contractor who claimed Ryan stiffed him on over $80,000. The pieces were falling together. But there was something even more dangerous brewing. Unbeknownst to Cassandra, Ryan had been keeping tabs on her. He had someone watching her movements. A woman with red hair and a camera lens too long to be casual. When Cassandra and Noah returned to the hotel that night, her room had been broken into. Nothing stolen, just a mess. Clothes tossed, drawers opened, her laptop cracked down the center. Noah's instincts kicked in immediately. He scanned the locks, checked the hallway cameras, and called in a favor from someone in cybersecurity. "They wanted you to feel unsafe," he told Cassandra, jaw tight. "Classic intimidation tactic, but now it's a war." She looked around at the mess, then back at him. "I've been silent long enough," she said. "It's time he learns who he underestimated." Outside the window, lightning cracked the sky. But inside, something stronger was building. Not rage, not fear. Resolve. 3 days after the break-in, Cassandra stood outside the downtown courthouse with Noah beside her. The sky above was gray and heavy, but she didn't care. For the first time since Ryan shattered her life, she felt grounded. "I can't believe we're doing this," she whispered. "You said you wanted to fight back," Noah said. "This is how it starts. One witness, one file. One foot in the door." They walked into the building together, Cassandra clutching a folder that held years of receipts, emails, and contracts she'd once ignored. Details Ryan assumed she'd never be smart enough to keep. But she had. Not because she suspected him. Because she trusted too deeply, loved too hard. And now, that paper trail was her sword. They met with an attorney named Alicia Brown, a sharp civil rights lawyer in her late 40s with a quiet fire behind her eyes. "I've been waiting for someone to finally go up against Ryan Lockwood," Alicia said, after reviewing the first set of documents. "If this holds up in court, it won't just shake his empire. It'll expose everyone tied to it." "You're saying he's not working alone?" Cassandra asked. Alicia leaned forward. Men like Ryan never work alone. He's protected. Layers of people keeping their hands clean while he pulls the strings. But once we start unraveling the web, the real panic begins. As they left Alicia's office, Noah got a ping on his encrypted phone. He glanced at it, then pulled Cassandra aside. "Someone's been accessing your old email account," he said, "from an IP address linked to one of Ryan's shell companies." Cassandra froze. "He's trying to delete evidence." Noah nodded. "Too late. We already cloned the data, but it tells me one thing. He knows you're not backing down." Later that evening, Cassandra sat on a park bench overlooking the city skyline. She needed a minute. The legal side was moving fast, but the emotional weight was catching up. Everything reminded her of what she lost. Her home, her career, her identity. But as she stared out over the water, she also thought about what she had now, something she never had with Ryan. Control. Noah found her an hour later. He sat beside her quietly before breaking the silence. "When I first saw you on that rooftop," he said, "you looked like a woman trying to remember who she was." She looked at him, eyes soft. "And now? Now you look like a woman who knows exactly who she is, and is about to make them all regret forgetting." Cassandra smiled for the first time in days. A real smile, the kind that carried scars, not pain. The next day, things escalated. Melissa Green, the former assistant they'd tracked down, finally agreed to meet. They found her in a diner in a small town outside the city. She looked tired, older than her 30-something years. The weight of secrets had clearly worn her down. "I signed an NDA," Melissa said nervously. "If Ryan finds out, I'm talking." "We'll protect you," Noah assured her. But the truth matters. It's not just about Cassandra. It's about the system he built. Melissa swallowed hard, then opened her purse and slid a USB drive across the table. "He made me forge documents, false invoices, fake charity reports. I kept copies. Just in case." Cassandra reached out and gently squeezed her hand. "You're not alone anymore." But as they left the diner, a dark SUV pulled up 2 blocks down. Noah noticed it instantly. Same vehicle he'd seen the night of the hotel break-in. Tinted windows, no plates. He pulled Cassandra close and whispered, "Get in the car. Now." They peeled out of the lot, and sure enough, the SUV followed. Noah drove like a man trained for combat, because he was twisting through back streets, cutting through alleys, until finally losing them in a crowded parking garage. When they emerged back into daylight, Cassandra sat in the passenger seat, heart pounding. "Who the hell are we up against, Noah?" He didn't answer right away. Then finally, "Not just your husband. There's more behind this than either of us thought." That night, Cassandra stood alone in her hotel room, staring out the window. A flicker of fear danced in her chest, but underneath it was something stronger. "Resolve," she texted Noah. "I'm not backing down." Moments later, his reply came. "Neither am I." And somewhere in the dark corridors of Ryan's empire, his PR team scrambled. His legal advisors whispered, because the woman they thought they silenced was now the voice they couldn't control. Cassandra didn't sleep that night. Not really. Every time she closed her eyes, the SUV from earlier replayed in her mind like a warning. Noah stayed up too, sitting by the window with his phone in hand, scanning traffic cams, checking encrypted messages, alert and ready like the soldier he once was. In the quiet of the early morning, he looked over his shoulder and said, "We've been followed twice now. That's not coincidence. They're closing in." Cassandra paced the room. "So what now? We run?" "No," Noah said firmly. "We go louder." The only way to survive this is to be too big to silence. That morning, Alicia arranged a meeting with an investigative journalist, David Cho, a respected reporter from a major online platform who had a reputation for exposing corruption in high places. They met at a secure location, an old church converted into a safe house for whistleblowers. David was sharp, skeptical, and exactly the kind of man who wouldn't risk his reputation on a half-baked story. "I'm not here to babysit a personal divorce scandal," he said after hearing the first few details. "It's not just a divorce," Cassandra replied calmly, sliding over a flash drive. "This is about money laundering, corporate fraud, and a ring of enablers protecting a man who built his empire on abuse and intimidation." David looked at Noah, then Alicia, then back to Cassandra. "If any of this is real, it's the kind of story that shakes cities." "It's real," Noah said, "and it's time someone paid attention." After David left with the files, Alicia turned to Cassandra. "This was the right move. But once this story goes live, Ryan won't just try to discredit you. He'll come after everyone helping you." Cassandra didn't flinch. Then he better come prepared. That afternoon, Cassandra returned to her old neighborhood for the first time since Ryan kicked her out. The luxury home they once shared now stood like a cold museum of lies. She parked across the street, heart racing, and watched from a distance. To her surprise, a woman stepped out onto the porch. Young, stylish, mid-20s, clearly not the cleaning staff, her replacement. Cassandra exhaled sharply. "He didn't even wait a month." Noah, who sat beside her, shook his head. "That's not a wife. That's a pawn. Probably someone he can control, just like he thought he could control you." Cassandra clenched the steering wheel. "He's not going to do to her what he did to me. Not if I can help it." Later that night, David called. "The files check out, but there's something bigger you should see." He sent over a video. Cassandra opened it with shaking hands. It was grainy security cam footage from a warehouse Ryan's company used as a storage facility. In the clip, Ryan met with two men, one of them clearly nervous, the other in a security uniform. Money exchanged hands. Then the three of them disappeared into the back of the building. "What is this?" she asked. "Looks like hush money," David said. "But here's the kicker. One of those men was a city inspector, the same one who signed off on safety permits for Ryan's construction projects." Cassandra sat back, stunned. So the whole thing was rigged. Noah leaned forward, watching the screen carefully. "And now we have footage." But that night, as they planned their next steps, the twist hit harder than either of them expected. Melissa Green, the former assistant who'd given them the USB, disappeared. Gone, no calls, no texts. Her apartment was empty, and the security cam in her hallway? Wiped. "We need to find her," Cassandra said, panic creeping in. Noah was already pulling up satellite feeds and calling in favors from old contacts. "We will. But we have to assume Ryan knows she talked." Cassandra turned toward the window, fists clenched. "She trusted us, and now she's in danger." Noah came up behind her, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. "We're not just in this to expose him anymore. We're in this to stop him. For good." The next morning, a message appeared on Cassandra's burner phone. It had no name, no signature, just one sentence. "You should have stayed silent." But she didn't. "Not then. Not now." Her silence was what allowed men like Ryan to thrive. And those days were over. Now she wasn't just fighting for herself. She was fighting for Melissa. For the women before her. And for every woman who would have been next. The rain hit the windshield like it had a personal vendetta. Cassandra sat in the passenger seat of Noah's black SUV, her fingers gripping the seatbelt as if it were the last thing holding her to the earth. The tension in the air was thick, thicker than the fog on the freeway. Melissa's disappearance had shaken her more than she wanted to admit. "She didn't just vanish," Cassandra whispered, her voice raw. "Ryan made her disappear." Noah didn't look away from the road. "He's sloppy. If he touched her, there's a trail. He thinks fear will shut you down. It won't." A beat of silence passed. "He never really knew me," Cassandra said. Noah glanced over, then back to the road. His mistake. They arrived at an industrial park on the edge of the city. The place was dead quiet, too quiet for midday. A contact of Noah's, Tanner, a former Intel analyst, had traced Melissa's last phone ping to a decommissioned storage unit registered under a shell company linked to Ryan's empire. Noah pulled out a tablet, showing Cassandra the building layout. "We go in, we go silent. Eyes open, no heroics. We find proof she was here. We get out." "You've done this before," she said, watching him assemble his gear. He nodded. "Too many times." Inside the warehouse, the air smelled like mildew and metal. Flashlights swept across crates and broken shelving. Cassandra felt her heart pound with every step, but she forced herself forward. She wasn't going to be afraid, not anymore. Suddenly, Noah held up a fist, signaling her to stop. He pointed to the floor, footprints in the dust, fresh. They followed the tracks to a back office with a cracked door. Inside, the light flickered, and there she was, Melissa. Tied to a chair, unconscious but breathing. Cassandra rushed to her, her voice cracking. "Melissa, it's me." "You're okay. We found you." Noah covered them while Cassandra untied the ropes. Melissa groaned, blinking slowly. Her lips were bruised, wrists red and raw. She tried to speak, but only managed a whisper. "He knew. I helped you. He has someone inside your team." Before she could finish, a sharp noise rang out, metal clanging against concrete. "Move!" Noah barked, grabbing Cassandra and pulling her down just as a bullet shattered the office window. A figure darted past the doorway. Another gunshot. Noah fired once, hitting the wall behind the attacker, buying them just enough time to grab Melissa and drag her behind a shelf. "We're getting out of here," Noah growled. "But he said someone in our circle," Cassandra began, but Noah cut her off. "We'll deal with that later. Right now, we live." They made their way out through the service entrance, ducking behind vehicles and storage bins. Noah's training kicked in, directing every step. By the time they got back to the SUV, Melissa had passed out again, but she was alive. As Noah peeled out of the parking lot, Cassandra stared back at the warehouse. "He's watching us from the inside." "That means we change the game," Noah said. "From now on, trust no one." They drove straight to David Cho's safe house. The journalist looked rattled when he saw Melissa. "She needs medical attention," he said. "She needs protection," Cassandra countered. "And you need to publish what we gave you. Now." David hesitated. "I haven't finished verifying all the files." "You publish or she ends up in a body bag," Cassandra snapped. "We're done waiting." He looked between them, then nodded. "I'll release an initial piece tonight." "But it won't be enough to bring him down." "It'll draw attention," Noah added, "which means Ryan's going to panic, and when he panics, he makes mistakes." That night, the first exposé went live. Fraud, bribery, insider deals. Ryan Foster's name was all over it. The story spread like wildfire. Local news, national blogs, social media. Ryan tried to put out the flames, releasing statements, denying everything, blaming a bitter ex-wife trying to stay relevant. But the twist came hours later. An anonymous whistleblower stepped forward with bank records, emails, and audio tapes. And it wasn't someone from Cassandra's team. It was Ryan's current girlfriend. The same woman Cassandra had seen on the porch. Her voice echoed through a leaked voicemail. "Ryan, I'm not going down for your mess. You promised this would be clean. You lied to me, just like you lied to her." Cassandra watched the video on Alicia's phone, a stunned look on her face. She flipped. Alicia smirked. He underestimated her too. Noah just leaned back, arms crossed. "His empire's cracking. Now we push harder." Cassandra looked around the room. Noah, Alicia, David, and a barely conscious Melissa. A team formed not by blood, but by survival. This wasn't just about Ryan anymore. This was about exposing every man who thought power made them untouchable. And Cassandra was no longer a pawn in someone else's story. She was the storm they never saw coming. The fallout was instant. By morning, Ryan Foster's name had trended across the country. The story exploded from independent outlets to national news networks. The leaked whistleblower voicemail was played on loop. Corporate sponsors began pulling out of his ventures. Board members started resigning. Stock in his companies took a nosedive. But Cassandra wasn't celebrating. She stood at the window of the safe house, arms crossed, eyes sharp. Melissa was stable now, resting in the back room with Alicia keeping watch. David had barricaded himself in the basement with his laptop and 3 phones ringing non-stop. Noah stood nearby, loading his sidearm with a grim look on his face. "Ryan hasn't made a move yet," Cassandra said quietly. "He will," Noah replied. "You just pulled the roof off his empire. That kind of man doesn't go down without a fight." Almost on cue, David's voice called up from the basement. "Cass, Noah." "You need to see this!" They hurried down the stairs. David spun his laptop toward them. A shaky video played, grainy security footage from outside Cassandra's old home. Ryan stood in the driveway, flanked by 2 men in suits. He wasn't hiding anymore. He was daring the world to look. "Play the audio," Noah ordered. David clicked the speaker icon. The footage synced with a hidden microphone planted by a nosy neighbor. Ryan's voice came through, cold and venomous. "I gave her everything. She thinks she can destroy me. I made her, and now I'll unmake her. That woman forgot who's in control." Cassandra's jaw tightened. "That's a threat." Noah's expression darkened. "That's a confession." Suddenly, another voice cut into the recording. A third man. Calm, professional. "Mr. Foster, the cleaner's already been dispatched. The safe house won't be safe much longer." They exchanged looks. Then chaos hit. A loud crash echoed from upstairs. The front door. Noah didn't hesitate. "Move!" He shoved Cassandra behind him and charged up the stairs. As he reached the living room, a flashbang detonated through the window. Light. Sound. Pressure. Cassandra dropped to her knees, ears ringing. Through the haze, she saw black boots charging in, weapons raised. Military precision. But Noah was faster. In a blur, he took out the first intruder with a strike to the throat, then rolled behind the couch for cover. He shouted down to Cassandra, "Out the back! Go!" Cassandra ran to the back hallway, grabbing Melissa with Alicia's help. David scrambled after them, clutching his laptop. Outside, the rain had started again, soaking the alley behind the house. They piled into Noah's truck. Tires screeched. Bullets tore through the air behind them, punching holes in the siding. Noah didn't speak as he drove. His face was carved in stone, eyes locked on the road, scanning every mirror. When they finally stopped, they were at a remote cabin in the woods, an old hunting retreat Noah had kept off the grid. "This was no ordinary hit," he said once the door was locked. "That was private military, mercs, hired guns. Not some street thugs. Cassandra sat down hard on the edge of the table, still catching her breath. How much money does he have left? Enough to buy war, Noah muttered. Melissa stirred from the couch. Her voice was weak but clear. He's getting desperate. The files I found, they don't just incriminate him. There's a network, judges, politicians. A whole chain of people feeding off the same corruption. David looked up, wide-eyed. You mean this is bigger than just Ryan? Melissa nodded. He's just the tip of the spear. But if you break him, the rest starts to collapse. Cassandra stood. Then we don't stop now. Noah looked at her carefully. We go after the heart of it. We make enemies in powerful places. Good, Cassandra replied. Let them be afraid for once. David hesitated. You're talking about going to court, taking it public? No, Noah answered. Court won't work. They'll bury it before it hits the docket. Cassandra took a deep breath. We expose it all. Video, documents, names. Faces, on every platform possible. Alicia pulled out her phone. I've got influencers, advocacy groups, lawyers who actually give a damn. If we drop everything at once, they can't spin fast enough. Melissa added, we leak this in stages. Keep them off balance. Don't let them regroup. Noah cracked a rare grin. This just turned into a war room. They spent the night building a digital time bomb, proof of bribes, court fixing, abuse of power, trafficking of influence, all tied to Ryan. All ready to detonate with one press of a button. But as dawn broke, a new twist came to light. David stepped outside to take a call. When he came back in, he looked pale. The DOJ just issued a warrant, he said. Not for Ryan. For Cassandra. The room fell silent. What? Cassandra said, her voice barely above a whisper. They're accusing you of cyber-terrorism. Claiming the leaks are fabricated. They're going to arrest you before you can release the full files. Noah grabbed his gear. That's the network striking back. They're scared. Cassandra stood tall, shoulders squared. Good. Let them be scared. Because this time, we're ready. The SUV cut through the early morning fog like a blade. Cassandra sat in the back seat between Melissa and Alicia, her wrists freshly cuffed. 2 federal agents sat in the front, stiff and silent, eyes forward. Outside, the trees blurred into streaks of green and gray, the weight of betrayal settling like lead in her chest. Across from them, Noah trailed in a separate car, his face hidden under a baseball cap and mirrored shades. He wasn't about to let Cassandra disappear into the system. Not now. Not after everything. Inside the federal building in downtown Richmond, Cassandra was led into a sterile white interrogation room. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The agents uncuffed her and left her alone with a pitcher of water and a 2-way mirror. It didn't take long. The door creaked open, and a tall, thin man in a navy suit stepped in. His badge identified him as Special Prosecutor Marshall Kent. He sat down without a word, opened a folder, and spread out several sheets of paper, photos, emails, fabricated evidence. This is impressive work, he said flatly. A well-executed smear campaign, coordinated leaks. Military-grade encryption. But let me be clear, this country does not tolerate cyber warfare. Cassandra stared at him, unblinking. You're protecting him, she said. Kent didn't deny it. I'm protecting stability, the kind people like Ryan Foster help maintain. Cassandra leaned forward. You mean the kind where people like him abuse women, steal money, destroy lives, and get away with it because people like you pretend justice is optional? Kent smiled thinly. You're very passionate, but this isn't about justice. It's about order. Before Cassandra could answer, the door slammed open. A woman in her 40s, in a sleek gray pantsuit, marched in. Her voice was sharp, every syllable cutting clean. "This interrogation is over." Kent turned, startled. "Excuse me?" She flashed a higher-level badge. "My name is Jordan Miles. I'm from the Office of the Inspector General, and unless you want a federal lawsuit on your desk by lunchtime, you'll uncuff that woman and hand her over." Kent's face paled. Cassandra blinked in shock. Outside, in a black van across the street, David was watching it all go down via a hacked security feed. He turned to Noah. "That's our contact." "Jordan was the one Melissa flagged. She's clean. She saw the data and flipped the switch herself." Noah nodded once. "Time to push the button." Back in the building, Cassandra was uncuffed. Jordan handed her a burner phone. "Upload the files now." "My people will handle the press." Cassandra's fingers didn't shake as she hit send. Within moments, the world changed. Screens lit up across America. News anchors interrupted broadcasts. A trove of files flooded social media, videos, emails, bank records, names. Faces. Ryan Foster's web of corruption was exposed, down to the blood money behind political campaigns and backroom deals. People who once protected him were now sprinting to cut ties. One senator resigned live on air. A judge fled the country. A CEO issued a panicked apology before collapsing mid-interview. And Ryan Foster? He vanished. His private jet never landed in D.C. As scheduled. His cell went dark. His last known location, a luxury estate on the outskirts of Atlanta. Noah, Cassandra, and Jordan arrived that night, flanked by federal marshals and local PD. They didn't knock. They stormed the mansion with a search warrant and a purpose. Room by room, they cleared the place until they found Ryan in his panic room, watching news coverage on 3 monitors. He looked up when Cassandra stepped in. "You think this ends me?" he spat. "People like you don't win. You get crushed and forgotten." Cassandra met his glare with something colder than fury. "I'm not here to win. I'm here to make sure you never hurt another woman again." Noah stepped forward, cuffs ready. "You have the right to remain silent," he began. Ryan lunged. It was a stupid move. Noah intercepted him with a swift takedown, slamming him against the wall, arm twisted behind his back. "You should have stayed gone," Noah whispered in his ear. Back at the precinct, as Ryan was processed like any other criminal, Cassandra stood in the hallway, staring at the sunrise through a narrow window. Melissa joined her, still limping but standing tall. "We did it," she said softly. Cassandra shook her head. "We started something. It's not over. Not until every one of them is held accountable." A reporter passed by, camera in hand. Cassandra turned away, but the woman called out, "Miss Brooks, do you have anything to say to the millions of women watching this right now?" Cassandra paused, then looked into the camera, her voice calm and steady. "You are not powerless. You are not invisible, and you are not alone." The camera clicked off. The moment froze in time. But the war wasn't over. As Cassandra walked out of the building into the light, she knew the final chapter was coming. And this time, the system would have to answer. The courtroom was packed. Reporters lined the back walls, their cameras capturing every breath, every twitch of a jaw, every clenched fist. On one side sat Cassandra Brooks, poised and resolute in a navy blazer. Her legal team flanked her, and just behind her, Melissa and Alicia held hands tightly. On the other side of the aisle, Ryan Foster sat in an orange jumpsuit, hair slicked back but eyes hollow. He no longer looked like the powerful real estate mogul who once sneered down at people like Cassandra. He looked like a man cornered. Judge Carolyn Whitmore called the court to order. Her gavel struck once, sharp and final. The silence that followed was thunderous. "Mr. Foster," she began, voice unwavering, "you stand accused of multiple counts of fraud, domestic abuse, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy to intimidate witnesses. After reviewing the overwhelming evidence submitted by both the prosecution and the whistleblowers who risked everything, this court finds you guilty on all counts." Ryan's jaw dropped open. He had expected delays, a mistrial, a miracle from one of the many favors he'd handed out over the years. But there were none left to call. The judge continued, "You are hereby sentenced to 35 years in federal prison, without the possibility of parole, effective immediately." There was no applause, no cheering. Just the quiet rustling of justice settling into place. Outside the courthouse, a sea of supporters awaited Cassandra. A mix of activists, survivors, and everyday people held signs that read, "We see you," and "Justice is real." When she stepped out, the crowd hushed. A young girl stepped forward. She couldn't have been more than 13. Her voice trembled as she asked, "How did you stay strong when everyone tried to break you?" Cassandra crouched down, meeting the girl's eyes. "Because I wasn't alone. People stood beside me when I couldn't stand on my own, and I learned that even if the world tells you to sit down, your voice still matters." A surge of applause rippled through the crowd. But Cassandra wasn't done. Later that evening, in a televised interview, she sat across from a national anchor. "Do you feel vindicated?" the anchor asked. Cassandra exhaled. "I feel seen. But more importantly, I hope this reminds people that systems don't change by themselves. It takes action, it takes risk, and yes, it takes people watching, like that former Navy SEAL who chose to intervene instead of looking the other way." The interview cut to a montage of the investigation, the courtroom footage, and Cassandra hugging Melissa after the verdict. The final shot was of Ryan being led away in handcuffs, shouting about appeals, his voice drowned out by the crowd chanting for justice. In the days that followed, reforms swept through the city. 2 judges were removed from the bench. The district attorney who once dismissed Cassandra's complaints resigned in disgrace. An independent review board was created to handle abuse cases involving high-profile individuals. But Cassandra's work wasn't over. She launched a foundation, the Scene Project, offering legal aid and shelter to women trying to escape abusive relationships. Noah joined as head of security. Melissa became a spokesperson. Alicia started training new counselors. And 1 year later, Cassandra stood at the same courthouse steps, this time addressing a new generation of survivors. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to be famous. You just have to believe that your voice matters. When you speak, someone will hear you, and if no one else does, know that we will. She stepped down from the podium, tears in her eyes but her back straight, as dozens of women surrounded her, applauding. Some were crying. Some were simply nodding. All of them knew they were not invisible anymore. As the camera panned away, a narrator closed out the broadcast. In a world where power can silence truth, one woman fought to be heard and lit a path for countless others. Her story is not just about justice, it's about the courage to rewrite your ending. If this story moved you, share it. Stand with those still fighting, and subscribe to Voices Unheard, where we amplify stories that inspire change, justice, and hope. Because every voice matters, especially the ones they've tried to silence.